Hello, everybody. I am Mrs. Poppet, and this is my place. It's so nice to see that you've come back for another story time. You are always welcome here with me, for I do enjoy our time together. I've picked a story today I don't know if you've ever heard of before, but I think you would like it very much. It is called One Eye, Two Eyes, and Three Eyes. Have you heard of this story? Well, if you haven't, that's okay, because we're going to read it right now. One eye, two eyes, three eyes. There once was a mother who had 3 daughters. The eldest was called One Eye because she only had one eye in the middle of her forehead. The second, Two Eyes, because she had 2 eyes like other people. The youngest, Three Eyes, because she had 3 eyes. The third eye was also in the center of her forehead. As Two Eyes looked just like other people, her sisters and her mother could not stand her. They said to her, "You with your 2 eyes are no better than the common people. You do not belong to us." They pushed her about, gave her nothing to eat but scraps and leftovers, and did everything they could to make her unhappy. One day, Two Eyes had to go out to the fields and tend to the goat, but she was still very hungry because her sisters had given her very little to eat. She sat down on a ridge and wept so bitterly that 2 streams ran from her eyes. When she looked up in her grief, a woman was standing beside her, and she surprised her when she said, "Why are you weeping, little Two Eyes?" Two Eyes answered, "My sisters and mother hate me for my 2 eyes. They push me from one corner to another and give me nothing to eat but scraps. I am so hungry." The wise woman said, "Wipe away your tears, Two Eyes, and I will tell you something that will prevent you ever again from suffering hunger. Just say to your goat, 'Bleat, my little goat, bleat.' Cover the table with something to eat. Then a pretty table will stand before you with the most delicious food upon it. When you have eaten enough, just say, 'Bleat, bleat, my little goat, I pray,' and take this table away. Then the table will vanish." Having said this, the wise woman left. Two Eyes thought, "I must try this right away, for I am so terribly hungry." And she said, "Bleat, my little goat, bleat. Cover the table with something to eat." Scarcely had she spoken the words than a little table, covered with a white cloth, stood before her. On it was a plate, a silver spoon, and the most delicious food, smoking and warm as if it had just come from the kitchen. Two Eyes said the shortest prayer she knew, "Lord God, be with us always. Amen," and then helped herself to some food. And she enjoyed it. When she was satisfied, she said, "Bleat, bleat, my little goat, I pray. Come and take the table quite away." Immediately, the little table and everything on it were gone. "That is a delightful way of clearing out," she thought, and she was glad and happy. In the evening, when she went home with her goat, she found a small earthenware dish with some scraps their sisters had left for her, but she did not touch them. The next day she left untouched the few bits of broken bread they had handed to her. Her mother and sisters did not notice at first, but when they realized it happened almost every time, they said, "Two Eyes now must be getting her scraps untouched. She used to eat everything we gave her. She must have discovered another way of getting food." They resolved to send One Eye with Two Eyes to the pasture to see whether anyone brought her anything to eat. So when Two Eyes next set out, One Eye went with her. Two Eyes knew what One Eye was going to be looking for. She drove the goat into the high grass and said, "Come, One Eye, we will sit down and I will sing something to you." One Eye was tired from the unaccustomed walk and the heat of the sun, and Two Eyes sang, "One Eye, are you waking? One Eye, are you sleeping?" One Eye shut her eye and fell asleep. Only then did Two Eyes call on her goat to give her the little table. Then, once she had eaten, Two Eyes woke One Eye up, scolding her sister. One Eye, you go to sleep while you are caring for the goat. It could run away and be lost. Come, let us go home." They went home, and again Two Eyes left her little dish untouched, but when One Eye could not tell her mother why. The next day the mother told Three Eyes to go with her sister and see whether she ate anything or anyone brought her food. Two Eyes and Three Eyes went off with the goat, but Two Eyes knew what must be in Three Eyes' mind. She drove the goat into high grass and said, "We will sit down and I will sing to you, Three Eyes." Three Eyes was tired with the walk and with the heat of the sun. Two Eyes sang the same song as before. "Three Eyes, are you waking?" But then instead of singing "Three Eyes, are you sleeping?" she ought to have done, she thoughtlessly sang, "Two Eyes, are you sleeping?" Then two of Three Eyes closed and fell asleep, but the third, which had not been named in the song, stayed awake. Three Eyes shut it, but only to pretend it was asleep. It blinked, and she could see everything very well. When Two Eyes thought Three Eyes was fast asleep, she said, "Bleat, my little goat, bleat. Cover the table with something to eat." She ate and drank her fill, and then ordered the table to go away again. "Bleat, bleat, my little goat, I pray. Come and take the table quite away." Three Eyes had seen everything. Two Eyes woke her and said, "Have you been asleep, Three Eyes? What kind of a caretaker are you? Come, we must go home." When they got home, Two Eyes again did not eat, and Three Eyes said to their mother, "I know why she does not eat. When she is out, she says to the goat, 'Bleat, my little goat, bleat. Cover the table with something to eat.' Then a little table appears before her covered with much better food than we have here. When she has eaten all she wants, she says, 'Bleat, bleat, my little goat, I pray, and take the table quite away.' Then it all disappears. I watched everything closely. She put two of my eyes to sleep, but luckily the one on my forehead stayed awake." Then the envious mother cried to Two Eyes, "Do you want to eat better than we do, ungrateful girl?" And she fetched a butcher knife and thrust it into the heart of the goat, which fell down dead. When Two Eyes saw that, she was very upset, and went out to the ridge of grass at the edge of the field and wept bitter tears. Suddenly the wise woman stood by her side once again and said, "Two Eyes, why are you weeping?" "Haven't I a reason to weep?" she answered. "The goat that brought me the table of food, as you showed me, has been killed by my mother, and now I will be hungry again." The wise woman said, "Two Eyes, ask your sisters to give you the entrails of the slaughtered goat. Bury them in the ground in front of the house, and then your fortune will be made." And then she vanished. Two Eyes went home and said to her sisters, "Dear sisters, please give me some of my goat. I don't wish for the best parts, but let me have the entrails." The sisters laughed. "If that's all you want, you can have 'em." So Two Eyes took the entrails and buried them quietly in the evening in front of the house, as the wise woman had advised. The next morning when they all woke, a strange, magnificent tree stood outside the front door. Its leaves were silver and its fruit were gold, and in all the wide world there was nothing more beautiful or precious. They did not know how the tree could have grown during the night, but Two Eyes saw that it must have come from the goat's entrails, for it was standing in the exact spot where she had buried them. Then the mother told One Eye to climb up and gather some of the fruit, but whenever One Eye was about to get hold of one of the golden apples, the branch escaped from her hands, so that she could not pluck a single one. Mother told Three Eyes to climb up, but she was no more able to grasp the fruit than her eldest sister. At length the mother grew impatient and climbed up herself, but she was always unable to get a hold of the precious bounty, and always clutched empty air. Then Two Eyes said she would try. Her sisters cried, "You indeed, with your two eyes! What can you do?" But Two Eyes climbed up, and the golden apples came into her hand of their own accord. So she could pluck them one after another, and she filled her apron with the precious fruit. When she climbed down, her mother took them away from her. She and One Eye and Three Eyes were jealous that she could harvest from the tree, and they treated her even more cruelly. Not long after, a day came when they were all standing together by the tree, and a young knight rode up. "Quick, Two Eyes," replied the other two sisters. "Creep under this and don't disgrace us." They quickly turned an empty barrel over their sister. The handsome knight stopped to admire the magnificent gold and silver tree, and said to the two sisters, "To whom does this wonderful tree belong? Anyone who will give me one branch of it may in return ask for anything she desires." Then One Eye and Three Eyes replied that the tree belonged to them, and that they would give him a branch. But they were not able to grant the knight what he asked, because the branches always swayed out of their grasp. The knight asked them whether the tree was really theirs, and they assured him it was. But while they were saying so, Two Eyes rolled golden apples from under the barrel to the feet of the knight. When the knight saw the apples, he was astonished, and asked where they came from. One Eye and Three Eyes answered that they had another sister, but was not allowed to show herself, for she only had two eyes, like common people. The knight, however, desired to see this other sister, and cried, "Two Eyes, come forth!" Then Two Eyes came out from beneath the barrel, and the knight was surprised at her great beauty. "I am sure you, Two Eyes, can break a branch from the tree for me." "Yes," replied Two Eyes, "I can, for the tree belongs to me." She climbed up and broke off a branch with the greatest ease and gave it to the knight. He then said, "Two Eyes, what shall I give you for it?" "Alas," answered Two Eyes, "I suffer from hunger and thirst and grief from early morning till late at night. If you would take me with you, away from these things, I would be happy." So the knight lifted Two Eyes onto his horse and took her home to his father's castle. There he gave her beautiful clothes, and meat and drink to her heart's content, and he loved her so much he married her, and there was great rejoicing. When Two Eyes looked out the window of her own little room in the castle, to her great delight she saw the gold and silver tree, for it had followed her. She lived a long time in happiness. One day two poor women came to her castle and begged for charity. She looked closely at their faces and recognized her sisters, One Eye and Three Eyes, who had fallen into such poverty that they had to beg for bread. Two Eyes made them welcome and took care of them, so they both repented the evil they had done to their sister with all their hearts. Wasn't that a wonderful story? It is so nice when people realize that they have been mean and that they need to change. And it's better to be kind than it is to be mean. And Two Eyes managed to get her happiness, and in the end so did her sisters. So that is a very happy ending, don't you think? Anyway, it was wonderful again to share story time with you, and I look forward to tomorrow.